Hey guys, Dolf de Roos, and I'm excited because I'm at a live event in Provo, Utah. And this is probably my first live event in 18 months. The pandemic has hit hard on not only live events, but the whole commercial real estate industry. And you know, residential is really hot right now. So a lot of people are asking themselves, should I focus on residential or should I get into commercial? Could now perhaps be a great time to get into commercial because it is so low? That's the sort of thing we're going to explore today. Everyone knows residential is at an all-time high and mortgage rates are at lows we've never seen before. So the question is this a good time to get into residential real estate, or is the market so high that now would be the wrong time? So this is from CNN Business. The housing market is red hot thanks to record low mortgage rates and consumers looking to flee cities for the suburbs. But offices, shopping malls, and other commercial real estate properties have been hit hard by the pandemic. And to understand this, we need to look at long-term trends. You see, for the last 20 years, people have been moving from the suburbs into the centers of cities. They do that because they want to be where the action is. When you live in the center of the city, they've all been gentrified, by the way, you can walk to restaurants and meet your co-workers at coffee shops. Everyone loved the idea of living in town. But with the pandemic and having to isolate, the opposite trend has occurred and people have been moving out of the center of cities. Some cities have almost been abandoned. Where is everybody? The most pertinent example of this is New York, where so many people left town, the city almost felt abandoned. People went to the Hamptons and other places because they had to isolate anyway, so they wanted to be alone. They didn't want to be where they had to wear masks all the time and avoid other people. They wanted peace and quiet out, away from all the busyness of the city.
I've got to get out of here.
So this has affected real estate in New York City, but in most of the world, residential property became the focus because since everyone was working from home, they wanted a nicer home environment. Some people wanted a nicer home. Demand for houses actually went up during the pandemic, and the residential real estate market has been the hottest it's ever been in the entire history of the world. So very often during different parts of the economic cycle, residential property and commercial property tend to go in unison. But particularly now with the pandemic, we found the skewing. Residential property has been very popular. Prices have been at an all-time high. And for the same reasons of the pandemic, commercial property hasn't done so well. Many people couldn't work at their offices anymore. They worked from home. Again, they wanted their homes to be nicer because they're spending a lot more time there. And a lot of office space was left empty. In fact, it manifested in other areas as well because people would buy more things online. That was a growing trend already, but it was accelerated by the pandemic. So Zoom and Slack and Amazon and DoorDash have done extraordinarily well, whereas office space and retail stores and dine-in restaurants haven't done so well at all. This trend has been really dramatic. In fact, back to CNN Business, there will likely be less demand for commercial real estate due to the rising popularity of online shopping and working from home. And you know, I personally experienced this because I used to always take checks that I received. Often there'd be rental checks. Down the road to the bank, I'd park the car, I'd go and stand in line and I'd fill out the forms and bank the checks. But one day I arrived at the bank and there was a sign on the door saying, "Closed owing to the pandemic. Please bank anything using our app."
Let us in! Let us in!
So I went through the process of downloading the app and I had to get the checks and photograph them and fill out the details. But I realized in that moment, this is so much easier than driving to the bank, parking the car, standing in line, filling out the forms. So now I'm one of the many people that doesn't really go to the bank anymore. This is a trend that's happening all over the world where banks are shuttering their doors as more and more people go online. So the question becomes, if there's going to be less demand for commercial real estate, will that mean lower prices? And it really depends on the kind of real estate we're talking about, because in the likes of warehouses, they are now catering to a greater demand for e-commerce. In fact, many shopping centers are being converted from shopping centers, which aren't working very well because everyone's buying online, to distribution centers for people who buy using online shopping resources. Self-storage is another example of companies that have done very well. I don't know if because we're spending more time at home, we realize we need to keep a lot of things and we cart them off to self-storage facilities, but those two areas have been doing very well. And that contrasts, for instance, with hotels. Hotels are a kind of commercial real estate that have fared very poorly because with the lower demand for travel, airlines haven't done well, hotels are not doing well, restaurants aren't doing well. they have really suffered. In fact, many hotels have not made enough revenue to pay their own mortgage commitments. So the question becomes, should you invest in hotels? So many people think you shouldn't buy a hotel because if demand is low, if they can't meet their own mortgage obligations, why would you want to take over that situation? And the answer is you shouldn't buy a hotel right now if you want to run it as a hotel. But my question to you is, what other purpose could we put that hotel to that would make it economically viable? And I want to seed some ideas with you now. So for a hotel to be able to be converted to a senior living facility, you need, for instance, elevator access to all the floors. You can't expect elderly people to climb the stairs. Well, hotels have that. Often we will combine 2 rooms into one senior living unit. Most hotels, when you walk in, they have a bathroom and there's a bedroom. Well, what if you convert the adjacent bathroom into a kitchen? The plumbing and the wiring is all there, and the adjacent bedroom into a living room, and you put a connecting door. Often hotel rooms are connected anyway. Then you've got a little unit that's got a bathroom, a kitchen, a bedroom, and a living room. These are perfect for senior living. They also need a communal kitchen facility. They tend to have that in the hotel already. So the conversion from hotel to senior living is actually easier than most people would expect. And the rental that you can collect, if you want to call it rental in this case, often seniors are paying $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 a month for a room in a senior care facility. So these suddenly can go from being economic, not viable, to economically extraordinarily viable. And that's just one example. Some people are converting hotels from a place where you spend a night when you're away from home to a place where you spend the day when you're at home, but because you're at home and working from home and your spouse is working from home and your kids are going to school from home and the cat and the dog and the canaries there, they just want to get out of it.
Get me out of here!
And you need a place that has good internet access, private restroom facilities, and quiet. A hotel is perfect, so hotels are repositioning themselves as a place to spend the day. So right now I'm looking at a hotel in Atlanta, Georgia. It's got 200 rooms and it's on the market at $3 million. That may sound like a lot of money, but that's extraordinarily cheap. That's $15,000 a room. And maybe it's not viable as a hotel right now, but what if we turned it into a senior living facility? Or maybe turned them into apartments and rent them out long term? Or maybe put them on separate titles and turn them into condominiums and sell them off? The sky's the limit. You're only limited by your imagination. And that's why there are so many opportunities in this whole realm of commercial real estate. Prices are at an all-time low. And if we can figure out an alternative use, suddenly they may become economically viable and they're a stunning deal for you to acquire. I've given you 3 ideas as to what you can do with a hotel to turn it from something that's economically unviable into something that can be so lucrative that your friends are going to say, how did you ever think about that? Now, if you want to delve into my brain a bit deeper, Chris Cronin and I have just released a new edition of my book, 101 Ways to Massively Increase the Value of Your Real Estate Without Spending Much Money. And you can secure your free copy by clicking on the link below. You'll never learn less. This book is full of gems of ideas that you can deploy straight away. The cheapest one's about 39 cents. It involves replacing a 40-watt light bulb that is a bit dim and dark and makes the room look not too bright with a 150-watt bulb so that the room looks bigger, brighter, fresher, and cleaner. This will increase its appeal to tenants, or if you're selling it, it will make it easier to sell. And the good thing about this, if you're worried about money, is the old bulb that you took out, the 40-watt bulb, it still works. You can deploy it somewhere else. And at the other end of the scale, we've got an idea where you can spend not much money, maybe $20, and increase the value of a commercial building by $2 million. And you do that simply by putting a helipad on the roof of the commercial building. That changes the dynamics. We explain how that works and why that works. If you want these ideas, click the link below and secure your free copy of this book. There you have it, residential versus commercial. I think you'll all agree that residential is at an all-time high and commercial seems to be quite low. The truth is both can be a great investment if you know what to do with them. If you're still wondering whether the game of real estate is for you, check out my previous video where I ask 4 questions which help you decide if this is a game you want to participate in. Thank you for watching. Remember to subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.